Luke chapter 20. Authority. Jesus was confronted by those in authority over the Jews. They were probably shook up by Jesus and his running off of those selling goods in the temple area. They asked where Jesus' authority came from. Luke 20, 1-2. It happened on one of those days, as he was teaching the people in the temple and preaching the gospel, that the priests and scribes came to him with the elders. They asked him, "Tell us, by what authority do you do these things? Or who is giving you this authority?" He answered their questions with a question they were not able to answer. Luke 20, 3-4. He answered them, "I also will ask you one question. Tell me, the baptism of John, was it from heaven, or from men?" He seemed to be refusing to enlighten those who really had no interest in the light. Luke 20, 5-8. They reasoned with themselves, saying, "If we say, 'From heaven,' he will say, 'Why didn't you believe him?' But if we say, 'From men,' all the people will stone us, for they are persuaded that John was a prophet." They answered that they didn't know where it was from. Jesus said to them, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things." Jesus next used a parable of the tenants, to give a hint as to just where his authority came from. It was a warning to the leaders of the people. Likely, Jesus shared more than one parable at that time. See Matthew's account too. Luke 20, 9-13. He began to tell the people this parable. A man planted a vineyard, and rented it out to some farmers, and went into another country for a long time. At the proper season, he sent a servant to the farmers to collect his share of the fruit of the vineyard. But the farmers beat him, and sent him away empty. He sent yet another servant, and they also beat him, and treated him shamefully, and sent him away empty. He sent yet a third, and they also wounded him, and threw him out. The Lord of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my beloved son. It may be that seeing him, they will respect him." Luke 20, 14-18. But when the farmers saw him, they reasoned among themselves, saying, "This is the heir. Come, let's kill him, that the inheritance may be ours." They threw him out of the vineyard, and killed him. What therefore will the Lord of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy these farmers, and will give the vineyard to others. When they heard it, they said, "May it never be." But he looked at them, and said, "Then what is this that is written? The chief stone which the builders rejected, the same was made the chief cornerstone. Everyone who falls on that stone will be broken to pieces, but it will crush whenever it falls onto dust." We all need to make a decision about Jesus. He is either 1. The precious cornerstone for a sure foundation. Isaiah 28, Ephesians 2. Or 2. The stone that causes men to stumble and a rock that makes them fall. Isaiah 8, Romans 9, 1 Peter 2. With Luke 20, 17-18, see Psalms 118, 22. Acts 4:11, 1 Peter 2, 7, Luke 20, 19. The chief priests and the scribes sought to lay hands on him that very hour, but they feared the people, for they knew he had spoken this parable against them. The trap. The leaders were getting sneaky. A trick question was presented: should Jews pay taxes to Caesar? Luke 20, 20-22. They watched him, and sent out spies, who pretended to be righteous, that they might trap him in something he said, so as to deliver him up to the power and authority of the governor. They asked him, "Teacher, we know that you say and teach what is right, and aren't partial to anyone, but truly teach the way of God. Is it lawful for us to pay taxes to Caesar, or not?" It was a clever trap. But the wisdom of men is foolishness to God. Luke 20:23. But he perceived their craftiness, and said to them, "Why do you test me?" We know from Matthew that Herodians were also among those setting the trap. The Herodians were a political faction aligned with Rome. They would be the witnesses if Jesus sided against Rome in his answer. The Jews hated the Roman occupation. Jesus would antagonize the Jews if he sided with Rome in his answer. It seemed that no matter how Jesus answered, he would be trapped. But Jesus gave an answer that astonished them all. And between the lines, the answer tells us about Jesus' kingdom and how it was not at all reliant on earthly power. Luke 20:24-26. Show me a denarius. Whose image and inscription are on it? They answered, Caesar's. He said to them, Then give to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. They weren't able to trap him in his words before the people. They marveled at his answer, and were silent. The Sadducees are next. Now, the Sadducees denied any sort of afterlife. To them, there was no resurrection of the dead. They were largely of the aristocratic element of society, upper crust. They held the majority of the seats in the Sanhedrin, the ruling council of the Jews. They were extremely Hellenistic. They liked the Greek way of thinking and doing. As such, they were also accommodating to Rome. They did not hold to the oral traditions of the Jews, Pharisees did. But they did hold to the importance of the books of Moses. They insisted on a very literal interpretation. Luke 20:27. Some of the Sadducees came to him, those who deny that there is a resurrection. In this section, the Sadducees tried to stump Jesus with a question. They, of course, had no better luck than the others. Luke 20:28-29. They asked him, Teacher, Moses wrote to us that if a man's brother dies having a wife, and he is childless, his brother should take the wife, and raise up children for his brother. There were therefore 7 brothers. The first took a wife, and died childless. Luke 20:30-33. The second took her as wife, and he died childless. The third took her, and likewise the 7 all left no children, and died. Afterward the woman also died. Therefore in the resurrection whose wife of them will she be? For the 7 had her as a wife. Jesus taught that there would indeed be a resurrection. Luke 20:34-35. Jesus said to them, The children of this age marry, and are given in marriage. But those who are considered worthy to attain to that age and the resurrection from the dead, neither marry, nor are given in marriage. Luke 20:36-38. For they can't die any more, for they are like the angels, and are children of God, being children of the resurrection. But that the dead are raised, even Moses showed at the bush, when he called the Lord the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Now he is not the God of the dead, but of the living, for all are alive to him. The Pharisees did believe in a resurrection. They ended up commending Jesus in his answer to the Sadducees. Luke 20:39-40. Some of the scribes answered, Teacher, you speak well. They didn't dare to ask him any more questions. But Jesus evidently did not want to get too cozy with the Pharisees, who had been his main antagonists all along. Jesus brought up his own question for them all to ponder. It was about the nature of the Messiah. If Messiah is the son of David, how is it David calls him Lord? Luke 20:41-44. He said to them, Why do they say that the Christ is David's son? David himself says in the book of Psalms, said to my Lord, Sit at my right hand, until I make your enemies the footstool of your feet. David therefore calls him Lord, so how is he his son? I suppose the question raises a related question that I will raise. To help clarify, would not David be greater than his descendant? The lesser is the one who calls the greater Lord. Jesus did not give an answer in that section. But we know the answer. The Christ is not a mere man. He is also God. He is more than human. See Romans 1:3-4. Luke 20:45. In the hearing of all the people, he said to his disciples, Then Jesus warned the people to beware of the teachers of the law. Luke 20:46-47. Beware of the scribes, who like to walk in long robes, and love greetings in the marketplaces, the best seats in the synagogues, and the best places at feasts, who devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayers, these will receive greater condemnation. The end. Luke chapter 20.